you guys know where we are. Had to go check the ice. I never realized how dorky I looked in a hat before. Anyway, so let's take a look. I want to show you guys how to put line on your reel, get it through the guides, and then I'm going to show you just the basic knots to get that done, as well as throw on a leader and a hook. Just some basic stuff for all you beginners out there that need to know this stuff. Let's get going. So when I was first starting out, and I'm sure many of you guys also, you got these little holes in your spool, and I used to just kind of throw a line through there and tie it on with just an overhand knot and let that go, and that works. I mean, I used it for a year or two, so I know that your line won't break. The chances of being spooled while fishing for bass or whatever, I think you're good. But those are actually there to actually decrease the weight of the reel, not to tie your line on. So the knot you're going to need to know, I think it's called an Abor Knot, and I'll show you how to tie that real quick. All right, so I like to do all this stuff without the reel being on the rod. I just find it easier. Having the rod attached to it is just big and bulky. But what you're going to want to do is this little hole here, this one right there, you're going to feed your line through that. So we'll do that. And then what you're going to want to do is wrap it around this thing here. Now where those holes can come in handy here is if you actually just kind of, I don't know if you can see, if you just kind of put it through one of those holes and then give it a reel nice and slow so it doesn't pop out, it'll actually pull it right around so you don't have to worry about trying to play through all the holes. And then the knot that you're going to use, so normally what you do is you just tie a real quick overhand knot, and that's going to be a stopper. But I actually find that the stopper, depending on the size of line that you're using, isn't big enough for it to actually stop the knot from slipping. And you'll see what I mean as we continue on. But basically, let me get this out here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually double up my line. I hope you guys can see this. And then when you doubled up your line, then you just do a quick little overhand knot. I'm actually going to give myself a little bit more room here because it's actually been quite a while since I did this knot. So I'm going to give myself just a quick overhand knot, just like you're tying your shoes. If I can figure out how to get it done here. And that's that. So you have this overhand knot. I don't know if you guys can see that, it's super, super small. There you go. Here's that little overhand knot, and it's on this double. So what you're going to do after that is actually trim it off. You're going to trim off that double part here and this little tag. Unfortunately, I don't think I brought my scissors. Let's see if we can cut it with a rock. Alright, that ain't going to work. Brought my pliers. Okay, so then once you've got that knot stopper right there so that the line doesn't slip, you're going to actually just do another overhand knot. Pull it all down tight, and then when you pull it down tight, that stop that you made, it should just stop it right there. So you can give that a quick little tug, and it's not coming off, it's wrapped right around. And then you can do your usual, I usually hold my finger right here in front of that little hole that we threaded the line through. Make sure the drag's relatively tight, and then just put her on the spool. Quick tip, guys, while you're fishing through the season, you'll notice that the ends kind of start getting a little bit frayed and they start getting a little bit discolored and stuff like that. What you can do to save yourself a spool, instead of getting rid of all that by, you know, pulling it all down and cutting it off and then losing a little bit on your spool, what you can do is actually just take all that line off your spool, flip it around, put that frayed end on your spool first, and then you have all new line at the other end, and then you can cut off the bad stuff next year. Just kind of save yourself a little bit on that spool. All right, so now we have the line on our spool. We're all spooled up now. So what we can do now is put that spool either back on our rod and put it through the guides. Just start from the bottom, work your way up, put it through the guides. And then what we can talk about is leaders. If you guys plan on using leaders, this is how I put a leader on my braided line. And for my leader, it depends on what I'm doing. Today I've got some, 10-pound mono. If you're fishing clear water, use obviously something like fluoro. Fluoro is glass, so it refracts that light and is almost invisible, whereas mono doesn't. It's see-through, but it's still visible in that ultra clear water especially. Now, I don't know the name of this knot. I'll look it up, and if I find it, I'll kind of put text here along the bottom. But what you're going to do is you're going to take your braided line and you're going to fold it up in half. So here's the end, and I've got it in two. And at the top here, you'll notice you have this little loop. And what you're going to do with that loop, take your mono or your whatever you're using for your leader and pass it through that loop. Now give yourself a good chunk. You're going to need a lot. So here I have probably about a foot. And it doesn't matter. I mean, mono's cheap, right? So don't worry about wasting it. So you have it coming up through that loop, and I'm just going to grab everything here. I'm going to grab the loop, I'm going to grab the mono, and here it all is. So you have your mono, you have the end of your braid, and then you have the braid that's attached to the spool. And what you're going to do is segregate that braid from the mono, and you're actually going to take this mono and you're going to loop it around the braid. So I don't even know how well you guys are going to be able to see this, but you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we'll just do 7 for argument's sake. Wait for that truck to pass by. And then once you have 7 or however many loops you want, you're going to grab it right at this end now. And you're going to actually, if you remember which way you turned it, so we turned it this way. I'm going to turn it the opposite way, I think. No, I'm going to keep going the same way, actually. Sorry, it's been a while since I did this. So you're going to grab it, and you're actually going to twist it down the opposite way. 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. I'm going to do 8 just for good luck. Alright, so now that we've got it down the other end, what you're going to do is actually grab it. I grabbed it from this end, so now I have my mono. And I don't know if you guys can see it very well, but I have that loop. And what you're going to do is, I can see that the mono passed through the loop this way, towards me. So I'm going to pass this back through, just kind of so it's going through the same way. Man, mono's so stiff, it's hard to... Alright. So now I passed it back through the same way. I don't know if you guys can see this or not, but basically I've got 2 pieces of mono that have gone through that loop the exact same way. So now I'm going to slide my fingers back on this end. There's the part that I was holding. I'm holding my 2 pieces of braid now. And over here I'm holding my 2 pieces of mono. And what I like to do is just kind of pull it so it's tight. Pull it really slow. Really slow. So now it's all tight and it's not going to go any further. This is where you'll wet your line. And then go down to your main line. Again, slow, slow, slow. Just nice and gentle. And there we go. So pulled it nice and tight. And then you got your 2 tag lines here. You got your braided tag line and your mono tag line. And you're just going to trim those off. And you can trim these off relatively close to the knot itself. I don't have my scissors, so the knot's not as pretty as it should be. But if you guys can kind of see that, it's hard to show you, but it's perfectly in line, and if you can trim up those tag ends nice and close, this goes through the guides nice and easy. I don't really get hung up all that much with it. All right, so we're almost ready to fish. We've got our line on the spool. We've got our line attached to a mono leader. So we are just about ready to go. All we need to do now is put a hook on the end of it, and we are set to go. So now with the hook, there are two, let me wait for this car. There are two knots that you can use. The first one is the one that I've used for a long time, and it's the Palomar knot, and it's the easiest one to put in there. And basically all you're going to do is feed that line through the eye of the hook, pull it a little bit, and actually turn it back and feed it back in there. And then you have this big loop. And if you slide her down, I'm just giving myself a little bit more room here to tie it. Then you're gonna just do an overhand knot. Feeding it through both sides. And I like to put my finger in there. Tie a little knot, put my finger in there. So I still got this loop. What I've done here is I've tied an overhand knot, put my finger in there, and this loop, you're actually going to open it up and pass the hook through it. Okay, so you got the overhand knot now, pass the hook through it, you're going to pull it down just a little bit, don't get it tight, just nice and loose. Okay, and then you're going to wet this. So once it's all wet, you can just tighten it down. Now, the trick here is, and you guys, I don't know if you guys can see it, but that line has come underneath the hook eye. So you want to make sure that you pull it up and tighten it down, because you don't want any line going down at the bottom of that hook end. You want everything at the top end of this hook. Now, if you're doing drop shot, that's a perfect knot, because then what you can do, so right now, if you were doing a drop shot, you'd have that hook pointing down. If you just take that tag end, pop it right back through that hook eye, like that, and then put your weight on, that hook now is facing the right way. But anyway, I'm not too worried about that. I'm just going to put on a regular hook. You trim off your tag end, and there you go. Palomar knot. And again, of course, I don't remember the name of this knot, but it's pretty easy to tie too, and it's actually a lot like that knot that we used to tie the leader onto the braid. And what you'll do is you'll pass it through, pull a good chunk out, right? So you got this tag line. And then put the eye and these two lines in your finger. What we're going to do is, let me change up the way I'm holding this thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to wrap that tag end around the main line, just like we did with the other knot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever, however many times you want. And you see this loop that we just created? You're going to pass that through that loop and grab onto it. Now look, it's made another loop. So what we're going to do, pass it back through that other loop. And we got this big mess. So basically what we're going to do, pull it down nice and loose. I go with the tag end. And what I like to do, I actually like to slide that down the line. Just slide it down so it gets closer to that hook. Just by hand, keeping it nice and loose. So again, we got that nice loose knot right there. And as it starts getting down where we're going to cinch it down, that's where we're going to wet it again. Once it's all wet, pull it tight. And that's that. Nice and easy too. Cut your tag end, and there you are. You're ready to fish. Alright guys, so that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it helps you out getting started. If it did, smash that like button. Don't forget to click subscribe to see more videos. And my question to you today is, What knots do you use that I haven't covered? I know that there's lots of knots out there that are better than the ones that I've showed you, but we're talking beginners here, guys like me that are just getting started. Do you have better knots that you'd like to use? Tell me down below in the comments. See you guys. And then if you've done your job properly, which I hope I have, when you pull that tight, which I haven't, it does take some finessing. If you really want to break it, you can do that.